All right, so final exam review. All right, so this is 25 multiple choice questions. So number one, they want me to graph the function. And our function is f of x equals x to the third minus 2. Now they'll give us 4 pictures, but on this one, I'm just going to go to my calculator and graph this and see what we get. So I'm going to go to y equals, punch in my x to the third. And then I'm going to arrow down and put in my minus 2. Y'all, the big mistake I get on this is people don't arrow down from the exponent, and they'll put 3 minus 2 all up there as an exponent, and that messes your graph up, okay? So make sure you arrow down from that exponent before you put that minus 2. And then I'm just going to hit graph. So notice it lowered it by 2 because that minus 2 is lowering that graph down. So we want the picture that looks like it was lowered. And I'll show you on number one, they're going to give you 4 pictures. So the first one looks like it went left. Second one looks like it went up a little bit. Third one looks like what we had. It looks like it went down. And then the fourth one looks like it went to the right. So on that one, you just come in and choose C on that and be done with it, okay? All right, so our graph on our calculator sort of comes up through there and uphill. All right, number 2 says find the function value. So they want me to find f of negative 2 when f of x equals 3x squared minus 4x minus 5. Y'all remember on this, f of negative 2 means they want me to take this function and put a negative 2 in for both of my x's. So f of negative 2 will equal 3 times negative 2 squared minus 4 times negative 2 minus 5. Now, at that point, you could plug this in the calculator and it'll give you an answer. I'm going to work this in by hand, following order of operations. So the first thing we got to do is square that negative 2. So I'm going to bring this 3 down. And it'll multiply by whatever I get when I do negative 2 times negative 2. So that'll give me a positive 4. I'm just bringing everything else down at the moment. Now I'm going to multiply right here to 3 times 4. And then I'll multiply these 2 terms in the middle. So 3 times 4 will give me a 12. I'm subtracting a 4 times a negative 2, which will be like I'm subtracting a negative 8, which will make that an actual plus 8, and then bring down that minus 5. So now we just add and then subtract. So 12 plus 8 gives me 20. 20 minus 5 gives me 15. So on your test, they got 7, 25, 15, and negative 1. So since we got a 15 on that, we'll check 15 and move on. So y'all, number 3, I'm going to use this picture here. It wants me to determine whether the graph is a function. Remember, if that graph is a function, it has to pass the vertical line test. which means if I draw vertical lines on here, none of these vertical lines can intersect my graph more than once. So this vertical line only intersects it once. This vertical line intersects it once. Looks like no matter where I draw a vertical line, it's only going to intersect that graph one time. So since it only intersects my graph anywhere at the most one time, this would be yes, a function. Remember, to not be a function, it's got to intersect that graph 2 or more times, okay? So just draw your vertical lines. Make sure it only intersects it anywhere on here one time, okay? All right, I'm going to turn my page. Number 4 is the bigger one. Number 4 says solve. I got an x minus y plus 2z equals 3. I got a 3x plus a z equals 3. And then I got an x plus 2y plus a z equals 9. So y'all, my first question, anybody working it by hand, or are all of y'all just using your calculator?
I'm doing it by hand.
Okay, so let's knock this out by hand, and then I'll show y'all on the calculator also. So y'all, the first thing I'm going to do, let me put these in order because the x's are out of order. I want them all in one column. So I'm just going to rewrite this to get all my variables lined up in a column. So the 3x should go here, plus the z here equal to 3. And then down here is my x plus 2y plus z equals 9. So I got row 1, row 2, and row 3. So I'm just numbering my rows so that y'all can see what I'm actually doing when I'm solving this. So my first question is, I need to pick a variable to eliminate. So y'all, since this second row don't even have a y in it, I'm going to eliminate the y's from row 1 and 3. Okay. Now remember, if I'm going to eliminate this y, this one's a negative y, this one's a positive 2y, I've got to change one of these rows. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to multiply row 1 by 2. Because if I multiply by 2, that'll give me a negative 2y. When I add it to this 2y, they're going to cancel. So I'm going to multiply row 1 by 2 and add to row 3 to eliminate the y. So on this one, I would always eliminate whatever variable's missing on the other equation, okay? All right, y'all, so multiply everything in this row by 2. So we're going to multiply everything up here by 2. So 2 times x will give me a 2x. So this will be my new row 1. It'll be 2x. 2 times negative y gives me negative 2y. 2 times 2z gives me a 4z. That's going to equal 2 times 3, which is 6. Now I'm going to bring down row 3, which is x plus 2y plus a z equals 9. All right, so let's see. Adding the x's, 2 plus 1 give me 3 x's. The y's cancel. That was the whole reason we did that. 4z plus 1z gives me 5z. And that's going to equal 6 plus 9, which is 15. All right, so notice. Row 2 is 3x plus z equals 3. This new row I got, I would actually call that row 4, is 3x plus 5z equals 15. Putting them two rows together now, so let's bring down row 2, 3x plus a z equals 3. Our new row 4 was 3x plus 5z equals 15. So if you find the variable that's missing on one of the rows, use the other two rows to get rid of that same variable. And you've got your two system equation right here. So we've got to figure out which one of these variables we want to eliminate next. And y'all, if you notice, I got a 3x here and a 3x here. They're both positive. But if I can make one of them 3x's negative, I will eliminate my x's next. So y'all, what I'm going to do, I'm going to multiply row 2 by a -1 and then add to my row 4. Okay, so we're going to multiply this whole row 2 by a -1. Now, it don't matter which one you multiply by -1 because they're going to cancel using either row, okay? So watch this. Here comes my new row 2. -1 times 3x is a -3x. -1 times z is a -z. That's going to equal -1 times 3, which is a -3. Bring down row 4, which was 3x plus 5z equals 15. Y'all look at that. The x's now cancel. -1 plus 5 gives me 4z equal to -3 and 15 give me 12. I've got one variable now. I'm going to solve for the z by dividing both sides by 4. So I get z equals 3. So y'all, our next step is to come back. Whoops, too far up. And I'm going to back substitute to get the other two variables. Because I know z equals 3. So y'all, I'm just going to pick up here. Look at this second equation. 3x plus z equals 3. If I plug in for that z, I can solve this for the x. So I'm going to do 3x plus my z, which is 3, has to equal 3. All right, y'all, so let's solve that. I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides. I get 3x. Oh, look at that. I get 3x equals 0. So to solve that for the x, I'm going to divide both sides by 3. And I get x equals 0. So I now know x is 0, z is 3. So I'm going to back substitute one more time. All right, so I need one so that I can get the y. So y'all, I'm just going to use, I had my third equation up here. I had x plus 2y plus z equals 9. Well, I know what x is. X is 0 plus 2 times my y plus my z, which is 3. All that has to equal 9. Now, y'all, let me show you. You could have picked any one of these three equations. The reason I use this third one, because I didn't have to deal with no negatives or anything. Okay. All right, so let's see what we get. 0 plus 2y is 2y. So I got my like terms would be my 0 and my 3. So that's just going to give me 2y plus 3 equals 9. So good thing about zeros is they can be gone and not affect anything. So now to solve this, I'm going to subtract 3. I get my 2y, 9 minus 3 is 6. And y'all divide by 2. So I get y is 3. So remember, this has to look like an ordered triple. My x was 0. My y was 3. And my z was 3. So if you'll notice, they got the same numbers for every answer. But y'all, we need the one that had the 0, 3, and 3 so that we would pick C. Now, we're going to do this one on the calculator. But remember, calculator, all I want are the numbers, no variables. So let me go to my calculator. So remember, we're going to go to the matrix. To get to the matrix, you hit second, x negative 1 for the matrix. We're going to arrow right to edit and hit enter. So most of ours already have this 3-4 in it.
How'd you get to the matrix?
Say again.
How'd you get to the matrix? Second and then what?
And then x negative 1 is the button right under the math button.
Okay.
And then arrow right to edit and hit enter on that. So now we've already got 3x4s in most of them, but if you don't have that 3x4 there, put a 3 enter, 4 enter, and then it'll take you down to the little where the rows start. So my first row was 1x, which will be a 1, enter. I had minus y, which will be a negative 1, enter. I had 2z, so that'll be a 2, enter. And then the answer on the first row was 3, enter. Now be careful with the second row. You had 3 x's, so that'd be 3, enter. We didn't have any y's on the second row, y'all, so what are we putting?
0.
So we're going to put a 0, enter. I had 1z, so that'd be 1, enter. And then that answer equaled 3 and enter. So my last row was x plus 2y plus z equals 9. So 1x, enter. 2y, so that'd be 2, enter. 1z would be 1, enter. And then my answer was 9, enter. All right, so once you got all your numbers entered into that matrix, you're going to quit that screen by hitting the blue second button and the mode button to quit. But y'all, now that calculator knows what our matrix is. So now remember, we want to do the math stuff to it. So we're going to go to the matrix again by hitting second, x negative 1. But this time we want to arrow to the second column that says math. Y'all remember what I want down here?
RREF.
Exactly. You want RREF. Once you get that RREF highlighted, hit enter. Now go back and get the matrix. So for the third time, I'm going to hit x negative 1 to go to the matrix. But y'all, at least this time, since my number 1 was the matrix I just made a while ago, all I got to do is hit enter on this, and it'll pull up that matrix A for me. So once we hit enter, remember, on the right column, it'll give me my answers, X on top, Y in the middle, Z on the bottom. So y'all, here we go. And y'all look on the right side, a 0 on the top is my X. The 3 in the middle in the right column is my Y. And then the 3 on the bottom are my Z's. So y'all, either way on that one will work. All righty, so let me get my page back up. All righty, so number 5. Okay, so I'm gonna pull this picture up for number 5 also, and I'm actually gonna zoom this in a little. So y'all looking at this graph here, they want to know the domain. The domain is the set of X values. It's going to go from the smallest X value over to the highest X value. So y'all, let me see. I'm looking at this left point. If I go straight down, it's got an X value of -4. So that'll be a -4 on our left side. Then I'm looking at the point over here where it ends. That's ending at +4. Now, since it's a continuous line, we would use our interval notation and go from -4 to +4. And y'all, the only one that's got that is RC. So remember, domain are X values. Okay. All righty, so let me do this number 6. So I'm going to have to shrink my graph back down. All righty. And then zoom her back in. All righty, so number 6 says match the inequality with a graph. So y'all are giving me 4x minus 5y is greater than or equal to a -2. Y'all, we have no choice on this one but to solve this for that y. We got to solve it for the y, and then we'll sort of play with the graph and see what we get. So to solve this for the y, you got to move the 4x to the other side. So we'll just subtract 4x from both sides to move that over. So those cancel, bring down that -5y. That's going to be greater than or equal. Now, these are not like terms. So you can do -2 minus 4x. Or if you're like me and you like the x's first, you can do -4x minus the 2. Either way, it don't matter over here, okay? So now we got to take care of that -5 because we want this to be a +1y. So we're going to come in and divide everybody by that -5. Remember, I just divided an inequality by a negative. So what are you doing?
Flip the sign.
Flipping the sign. So it was greater than, so now it's going to be less than. No, that's the main thing you got to remember on this. Flip that inequality when we divide by the negatives. All right, so -5 divided by -5 makes that a 1y less than or equal. -4 divided by -5, the negatives cancel, making that a 4/5x. And then at the end, these two negatives make that a +2/5. All righty, so now since it's solved, I can now go to the calculator and actually graph this, okay? All right, y'all, so let's see. Let me try to graph it by hand real quick. Ooh, I got fractions, so I'm just gonna make my 1 here, 2 here, 3 here. I'll start with 3. Hopefully I can fit it on that. All right, so I'm just going to make me a nice little table real quick. So I always use 0. So if we put a 0 in for the x, 0 times 4/5 is 0. 0 plus 2/5 is going to be 2/5. So that goes back to that. Remember, that's the y-intercept. So the y-intercept is where it crosses the y-axis when the x is 0. So y'all, 0 2/5. So if I was going to mark this into fifths, I would only be up a little bit between 0 and 1. So my first point will be right there. So now I need another point. So I'm just going to use a 1, I guess. Since these got a common denominator, I'm just going to use a 1. So let's see, if I put a 1 in here, I'll have 4/5 times 1 plus 2/5. 4/5 times 1 is 4/5 plus 2/5. And y'all, if we add that together, we're going to get a 6 on top over 5. So you're going to get a 6/5 on that. 6/5 is a little bit more than 1. So if you go to 1, there's 5/5 will go up 1 more, will be 6/5. Now I'm going to show you this on the calculator also. But my first question to y'all would be, this line, am I going to make that line solid or dotted?
Solid.
Solid, good job, because you got the equals in there. So it will be a solid line. And then less than means I'm going to shade below the line. All right, y'all. So we'll pick out one of them pictures in a second. Let's go do this on the graph real quick on the calculator. So I'm going to go to y equals and clear that out. So remember, I had a 4/5 x. Now, if you want it to look just like a fraction, hit alpha y equals. Then hit enter for ND. That's numerator over denominator. Whoops. Let me get back up there. All right, so this was 4/5 x. So that'll be 4 on top, 5 on the bottom, arrow right. Put in my x. And then I had plus 2/5. So that'd be plus. And then I'm going to do alpha y equals and enter again to get my fraction. And then I'm going to make that a 2 on top, 5 on the bottom. Now remember, if I want it to shade for me, I'm going to arrow all the way left of the y equals. Now, I'm using an older 84, so on this one, I would just hit enter until I got a triangle that looks like it's a triangle below. That's a triangle above. Once I hit enter again, I got the triangle below. Now remember, if you got the CE calculators, when you click enter on the left side of Y1, it'll bring up a box, and you can pick what color you want it to graph. Then you can pick the triangles for below, and then down there hit OK, okay? All right, y'all, so I'm going to hit graphs. And y'all look at that, just like what we just graphed by hand. So let me pull our pictures over here. And if you notice, the only one that went uphill like we had would be C, and it is a solid line. So on that one, you would definitely pick C. All right, y'all good so far? So y'all's favorite problem coming up next. Number 7.
That's kind of scary.
And this one I told you I'll put a bunch of stars by. This is, check this out, a ladder
Oh no.
is resting against the wall. The top of the ladder touches the wall at a height of 18 feet. So they want me to find the length of the ladder if the length is 6 feet more than its distance from the wall. So if the length is 6 feet more than its distance from the wall. So I think I'm about to draw me a picture. I'm going to have me a wall over here, and then I got my ladder leaning up against it. So the first thing they told me, the top of this ladder up here touches the wall at a height of 18 feet. So they're telling me this side over here is going to be 18 feet. Now they want me to find the length of this ladder if its length is 6 feet more than its distance from the wall. So I don't know this distance from the wall. So y'all, that's going to be our X. Now, if this ladder is 6 feet more than this distance, this will be X plus 6. So guess what? We got us a right triangle sitting here. So this is where we used our Pythagorean theorem. Or a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So y'all, of these 3 sides, which one has to be my c?
The top side.
So that'd be what, my hypotenuse, I guess, my longest side, okay? Always has to be c, and then I'll just call this a and b. So let's plug in what we got for our 3 letters. A will be x, so that's going to give me an x squared, plus b is 18, so we'll square 18. That's going to equal my c, which is x plus 6 squared. All righty, so let's start squaring this stuff. Can't do nothing with that one. That's going to stay x squared. But we can figure out what 18 squared is. So y'all, 18 squared gives us 324. But now I got this x plus 6 squared. So remember, we had to do side work on that. X plus 6 squared is an x plus 6 times an x plus 6. So you got to FOIL this out, and then we'll put that right here. So y'all, we get an x squared plus 6x plus another 6x, and then plus 6 times 6 is 36. So before I pull it over here, I'm actually going to add the like terms in the middle. So I'll have an x squared. 6 plus 6 gives me 12 x's plus my 36. So I'm going to plug that in. X squared plus 12x plus 36. So now we're looking at these x squareds and thinking, oh, we need all the x squareds on one side. But y'all watch this. When you got an x squared that's positive on both sides, and you try to move it, well, it's going to cancel there, and it's going to cancel there. All that's left is this 324, and that's going to equal to 12x plus 36. So it's no longer quadratic because those x squared terms are gone. So to solve this for the x now, we're going to subtract 36 from both sides. So that's going to give me, what's that, 288 on the left side. That's going to equal 12x. So y'all, looks like we're down to the last step. We're going to divide both sides by 12. So it's going to cancel, giving me my 1x. And y'all, let's see, 288 divided by 12 is going to give me 24. So y'all, the question of the day, how long is my ladder?
30.
30. Good job. You cannot stop at that 24 because 24 was this distance. Well, we didn't want 24. We wanted the length of that ladder, which is 24 plus 6, which gave us our 30. Now, y'all, don't worry. They got a 24 on here. So if you stopped at 24, you got it wrong. You had to go with your 30 on that one, okay? All righty, so y'all's favorite problem is now done. All righty, y'all. Number 8, find the domain. Now, they want me to write the answer in interval notation. And when you're doing the domain of a fraction like I'm about to put up here, f of x equals x squared plus 9x plus 18 on the top all over x squared minus 1. The domain, I'm only concerned about the bottom. So what I would do is take the x squared minus 1 and set that equal to 0. So this one, since I only got an x squared in a number, I'm going to get the x squared by itself and do my square root stuff. Now, if it had an x in it like this one up on top, I would have factored it. But this one, there's no x in it, so we're just going to add 1. And I get x squared equals 1. Then we're going to square root both sides. So the square root of x squared is x. So y'all square root of 1. Oh, I didn't get no responses out of that.
Oh, what did you say? 1.
So remember, since I'm solving this little equation, y'all
Oh, plus or minus 1.
plus or minus 1. There you go. Because you got to exclude both of those values from your domain. So remember, our domain interval notation will start at negative infinity till we hit -1, because we're going to hit it first, going left to right. We'll union from -1 to the positive -1 to +1, and then we'll union that going from the 1 to our positive infinity. So see, they'll have them answers here. So that one, they must work with the top. This one, they didn't put the interval from -1 to 1 on it. You got to have that -1 to 1 interval in the middle. So the only choice you can put on this would be C. And
Well,
then
it's kind of obvious too, though.
yeah. And then D, they didn't do the -1 on that. They just did the +1 for the square root. Okay. So yeah, y'all been in here long enough all year on these domains. Y'all know that when you got x squared, you got to exclude 2 numbers, which means you need 2 unions, okay? Oh, y'all look at this. For the function f, construct and simplify the difference quotient. Now, they'll give you the formula. Remember, difference quotient was f of x plus h minus f of x, all of that over h. Now, our f of x they're giving us, f of x is going to be 8x squared plus 2x. So for this, we already got the f of x. The h is always on the bottom. So all we really got to find is the f of x plus h. So we're going to come over here and find f of x plus h. So that means put an x plus h in for both of these x's. So I'm going to have 8 times x plus h squared plus 2 times x plus h. So y'all, the first thing you got to do is figure out what is x plus h squared equals. So y'all still got them notes?
X squared plus 2hx plus h squared.
Oh my God, look at you go. Every time we got an x plus h squared, it will be that. Good job. That's something you always want to save. So I'm going to bring down my 8. And then I'll put in my x squared plus 2hx plus h squared. And then I'm just bringing down to 2 times the x plus h. So guess what? On y'all's test, you need that right there for that x plus h squared. All right, so the reason I just brought all this down, because now I'm just going to distribute everything at once. I'm going to distribute the 8 through the first parentheses and then the 2 in the second one. So 8 times x squared is 8x squared plus 8 times 2, 16hx. 8 times h squared is 8h squared plus 2 times x is 2x plus 2 times h is 2h. All right, and if you remember, sadly, I don't have any like terms here. So I'm putting everything in my formula now. And remember, all this will be over that h. So put in the f of x plus h first, and that's what we just found. 8x squared plus 16hx plus 8h squared plus 2x plus 2h. F of x, that part they gave us, 8x squared plus 2x. So do y'all remember this part now? I'm going to start canceling. Everything in the second parentheses will cancel with its same likeness in the first parentheses. So this negative 8x squared will cancel with that positive 8x squared. And remember, this is like a negative 2x. So this negative 2x here will cancel with that 2x. At this point, all that's left has the h's in it. So y'all, we got a 16hx plus 8h squared plus 2h all over h. So y'all, at this point, what would be my final answer?
16x plus 8h plus 2.
There you go. Cancel one h from everybody on the top. Get your final answer. And be done. So if you notice, what do we get? A 16x plus 8x, h plus 2. So that would be your C on that one. So be careful. A is really close, except they left the extra square on that x there, it looks like. And then they left the x on the end. So they didn't cancel out their x terms very good on theirs, okay? So yeah, C is it. And then we move on. So let me keep it right here, and I'm going to zoom in just a second on these 4 graphs. So y'all, for this one, graph the function f of x equals negative 5 square root of x. So what I'm going to do is just run to my calculator real quick and graph that. Now, if you want to change the window, look at the x's go from negative 10 to 10, but the y's go from negative 14 to 6. So if you want it to look exactly like their picture, I'm going to change my window for you. So let me go to y equals, and I'm going to clear out this last equation we did. I got negative 5 square root. I would hit second x squared and then put in my x. Now, if you want to change the window to match theirs, you go to window. Now my x's are already negative 10 to 10, so I'm going to go to y minimum. They had a negative 14. And then their y max was a 6. So I got my window set. Now when I hit graph, I will get one of their 4 pictures. So there's my graph. It's going downhill, starting at about the origin, it looks like, and it's just going downhill to the right. So let's go to our picture. And y'all, the only one I got going downhill to the right would be A. So I would click my A and be done. Now, here's the thing. Let me go back to the calculator. And I'm going to hit that window. If you wanted to go back to 10 by 10, just come down here, put that back on negative 10 for the y minimum. Arrow down, put your y max back to a positive 10. And then I'm just going to quit the screen. All righty, so I need to go back to the paper here. So let me zoom in just a little more on this one. So look what it says. Determine the intervals on which the function is increasing, decreasing, and constant. Increasing is going uphill left to right. So the only one going uphill left to right is this third little section here. So what I want to know is, on what interval is it doing that increasing? So at that
infinity.
Oh, so let's see. So 4 to infinity. So increasing, we're going to say is 4 to infinity. And y'all, all they did was what? Pull down there to the x-axis and that started at the x value of 4. And like you said, it's headed to the right towards positive infinity. So let's see, this one, A has increased in 4 to infinity. B is out of the question. C is out of the question. So D has 4 to infinity. So our answer will be A or D. So let's look. So what about decreasing? Decreasing is this part right here going downhill. So y'all, where's that one decreasing from? Coming in from the left from?
Negative infinity, -4.
Negative infinity, -4. Good job. So let's see what A had. A had decrease in -4 to infinity. So I think A is out of the picture. So look at D. D has negative infinity to -4. It had my increasing right, my decreasing right. And just to check it, where's this thing constant from? So it's constant from this x value to this x value, right where I'm going straight across. And y'all, don't that look like from our -4 to our +4? So that verifies it. The only answer is D. So remember, on your intervals, you're only worried about those x values, okay? All right, y'all, so this one we can actually do by hand too. Now they're telling you, how can this graph f of x equals negative x minus 11 squared plus 5 be obtained from the graph of y equals x squared? So remember, x squared is just your basic parabola. And that basic parabola just starts in the center here. Now, we don't have to graph this one, thank God. So here's my first question. They're starting with the parentheses. If I'm attacking that x by subtracting 11, what move will that do to my graph?
Shift it right.
It's going to go right. So we know it's going to go right, those 11 units. But y'all look at that. 3 of them are going to the right. The only one I can eliminate at this point is C because it went to the left. So I know it'll be A, B, or D. So what's that negative in the very front going to do to my graph? Well, remember, if I throw a negative in front of it, it's going to take my graph and flip
Reflect over the x-axis.
over the x-axis. So we've done eliminated C. So, well, y'all, at that point, B and D both got y-axis. So at that point, we know the only answer has to be A. So to verify it, what's that plus 5 doing at the end?
Up.
It's going to move it up 5. So there we go. 11 units to the right, reflected across the X, and shifted 5 units up. So on that one, you want A. Now remember, on number 12, we haven't done anything that concerned the y-axis. So for your number 12, you might as well cancel the 2 that say y-axis for sure, okay? All right, y'all, so what are we on? Number 13. So what we're going to do, we're about to take a break for a little bit. We're going to take a break. All right, let me unzoom a little bit. All righty, so 13 wants me to find the zeros. And it says give exact answers. And y'all, they're giving us f of x equals x squared minus 8x plus 41. So on this one, you're going to have to use the quadratic formula. So let me write the formula. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So we need to pick our numbers out here. So a is 1, b is -8, and c will be 41. So let's plug our numbers into our variables. So we're going to have x equals negative b, which is -8, plus or minus square root -8 squared minus 4 times a, which is 1, and c, which is 41. All of that over 2 times 1. So now we just start simplifying this thing. That double -8 makes that a +8, plus or minus square root. -8 squared is a +64, minus, and this end's going to stay negative because I've only got one negative down here. So now we just got to figure out what 4 times 1 times 41 equals. And that's going to give me a 164. All over 2 times 1, which was 2. So now we're sort of stuck until we finish our radical here. So let's bring down our 8 plus or minus. Under the radical, 64 minus 164 gives me a -100. All of that over 2. So y'all, let's figure out on the side, what is the square root of a -100? So y'all, let me ask y'all that. What's the square root of a -100?
10i.
Oh, what'd y'all just say?
10i.
10i, there you go. So if you got a negative under there, it comes out as the I. So that's going to give me, I'm going to replace that square root of -100 with that. So I'm going to get 8 plus or minus 10i over 2. And y'all, guess what? Our final step to simplify this, since these two top numbers will both divide by 2, we're going to divide them both by 2 and be done. So 8 divided by 2 gives you 4, plus or minus 10i divided by 2 gives us a 5i. Now, the biggest mistake people miss on this one, when they bring that -8 down here, they don't put that first negative that's in that formula. You got to put that negative and then put your -8 in, okay? So there we go. X is 4 plus or minus 5i. All righty, y'all. So moving on to number 14. So 14 says, find the vertex of the parabola. My equation is f of x equals 3x squared minus 24x plus 50. So y'all remember that vertex formula was -b divided by 2a. That's how you get the x coordinate. And then you find f of -b over 2a. So you find your x coordinate, and then what this means is that you plug it into the function to get the y coordinate. So y'all, let's get the x coordinate first. We're going to do negative b over 2a. So remember, a is 3, b is negative 24, and c is 50. So remember, once again, write that negative and then put in your b, which is a negative 24. All of that over 2 times my a, which is 3. So once again, the two negatives will make that a positive 24. 2 times 3 gives me 6. And y'all, 24 divided by 6 gives me what, a 4? So I know the x value is 4. So now I'm going to get the y value by putting that 4 into my function. So I'm going to find f of 4. That equals 3 times 4 squared minus 24 times 4 plus my 50. So remember, we got to start with this exponent. So bring that 3 down. That'll multiply by 4 squared. So y'all, 4 times 4 is 16. And I'm just bringing everything else down for the moment. All right, so let's see what we got. 3 times 16 is 48. Minus 24 times 4 is 96. And then we'll add 50. All right, y'all, so 48 minus 96 is a negative 48. Negative 48 plus 50 gives me 2. So my vertex is going to be 4, 2, and be done. Now, y'all, let me show you this. On their answers here, once you get that 4, look, there's only one answer that has the right x value. That one has a negative 4, negative 3, and a 2. So once I got that 4, I'm pretty sure it's going to be C, okay? All right, 15. Find the zeros and the multiplicity. So if you notice, we're getting into that test 3 material. So we have f of x equals 3 times x plus 8 squared times x minus 8 to the third. So y'all, we're going to find the zeros first and then their multiplicities. To get the zeros, you set the variables equal to 0. This 3 does not have a variable, so you can cross that thing out. All we're worried about are the ones with the variables. So I'm going to set x plus 8 equal to 0, and then I'll set the x minus 8 equal to 0. So the first one, y'all, I'm going to subtract 8. I get my first 0 is negative 8. The second one, I'll add 8. And my second 0 is a positive 8. So for the 0 of negative 8, what is this multiplicity?
2.
It's going to be 2 because we got it from that factor. Good job. And then I had a 0 of 8. What is its multiplicity?
3.
It'll be a 3. So notice on your answers, we had negative 8, 2, 8, 3. So we would go with A. But y'all watch out because they sort of throw curveballs at you and mix them into order, okay? So I don't know how they got that 4, 8, and negative 8 on that one. And then 4, negative 8, and 8 on that one. So those were your bad ones. Remember, we only had 2 zeros because we only had 2 factors that contained a variable. All righty, let me see what this 16 is saying. Oh, 16 just says graph the function. They're giving me g of x equals a negative x times x plus 3 squared times x minus 2 squared. Now, I will say this, when I look at the graphs, my x's are going from -5 to 5. My y are going from -240 to a positive 240. So I'm going to graph it using the window like they did so that I can catch this whole graph on here, okay? So let me go to my calculator. So I'm going to go to y equals and clear that out. So I had a negative x times a parentheses x plus 3, close parentheses and square that. Then I had parentheses x minus 2, close parentheses and square that one. Now, I'm going to set my window up, so I'm going to hit window. My x's went from -5. My x max went to a positive 5. Then down here on my y minimums, they went from -240. And then my y max went to a positive 240. All right, y'all. So let's graph this and see what we get. So if you notice, it's going downhill left to right. Now notice the left side. That left side is touching the x-axis at -3. And if you look on the right side, that little hump is touching the x-axis at a positive 2. So y'all, I'm going to put my pictures here and we'll zoom them in. So remember, touching on the left side at -3, right side at positive 2, and it's going downhill. Now I'm going to zoom this in so you can see that better. So remember, it went downhill, so it's either B or D. So we got to figure out which one of these is touching at -3 on the left side and a positive 2 on the right side. So y'all, it's either B or D. What would y'all go with?
D.
As in dog?
Yes.
Yes, there you go. Because if you notice right here, it's touching at -3. And right here, it's touching it at the positive 2. B looks similar, but notice it's touching at -2 here and positive 3. So they're backwards on where they're touching it at, okay? So remember, set your window to what they got, -240 to 240 and -5 to 5. Well, actually, that was -6 to 6, but I don't guess it mattered being off by 1. And then you got to figure out where is it touching that x-axis at on this one, okay? All right, y'all. So that is the trick on 16. 17, find the vertical asymptotes. They're giving us f of x equals x squared plus 2x minus 8 all over x squared minus 5x minus 14. So y'all remember, vertical asymptotes are the vertical lines that we got where it was undefined at. And they're going to have the form of an equation, x equals some number. And to find them, we set the bottom equal to 0. And y'all, to solve this one, we actually got to factor this one. So here we go. We got an x squared. So that's going to be an x and an x. Remember, this 14 is negative. Since the 14 is negative, we got unlike signs. One's positive, one's negative. So we need to find factors of this 14. That'll subtract and give me a 5. And the larger factor will be negative like that middle number.
2 and 7.
2 and 7. So the 7 will be negative like we said, and the 2 positive. So y'all, once we solve those two factors, we got our vertical asymptotes. So we'll subtract 2 on the first one, and we get x equals -2. Add 7 on the second one, we get x equals 7. Now let me show you this. Be very careful on this test, because they got y equals -2, y equals 7. The y's were the horizontal asymptotes. We need the x equals -2 and the x equals 7, so we would go with A. But y'all be careful, because all they're doing on this one is changing the signs. And then down here, they just gave you one asymptote instead of both of them. So y'all be careful on that one, okay? And remember, these are definitely got to be x's. All right, y'all. 18 says, find the requested function value. So they're giving us a f of x. So f of x equals -6x minus 9. They're giving me a g of x. G of x equals -7x squared plus 4x minus 5. So what they want me to find is G compose F of a 7. So y'all, here's how this is going to work. Remember, this is just like a G of F of 7. So the first thing we're going to do is take this 7 and put it into the F equation. So we're going to find F of 7 first. Once I figure out what F of 7 equals, I'll take that answer and plug it into my G. So F of 7 will be -6 times 7 minus 9. All right, y'all, let's see what that is. -6 times 7 is -42. Minus that 9. So -42 minus 9 gives me a -51. So now I put the -51 into the G equation. So we're finding G of a -51. So I got -7 times -51 squared plus 4 times -51 minus 5. All right, y'all. So first thing I got to do is that exponent. So bring down that -7. Woo, let's see. What's a -51 times a -51? Y'all, that gives me 2,601. And remember, that's got to be positive, because a negative times a negative makes a positive. And y'all, I'm just going to bring the rest of this down. So now I'm going to multiply right here and right here. So I got to figure out what -7 times 2,601 equals. Whoo, that gives me a negative 18,207 plus 4 times negative 51 is a negative 204. So instead of plus, I'll probably put what, a negative 204 there, and then minus my 5. All right, y'all. So negative 18,207 minus 204 minus 5 gives me a negative 18,416. So y'all guess what? Answer A, negative 18,416. So click A and be done. But y'all, the moral of the story is you're going to put your number into whatever second, get that answer. Once you get that answer, put it into the G equation, okay? All righty, so let me unzoom. All righty, so let me look at what's next, number 19. John, a little better seeing them the second time around versus the first time, right?
Yeah. It's easy to remember it that way, though.
So it's like, and y'all are doing this in the summer, so you ain't had much time to sleep and forget your math.
That's why I wanted to do it in the summer.
There you go. So this one says for the pair of functions, find the indicated composition. All right, y'all. So they're giving us f of x equals 4x squared plus 5x plus 8. G of x equals 5x minus 7. They're wanting us to find G compose f of a x. So it's just like number 18, except they did not give me a number for my x. Remember, this one's like G of f of x if he's writing it in that notation. So here's the thing. Since I don't have a number to put into the f, I've got to put my complete f of x function into the G. So when I take the G in place of its x, I got to put the whole f of x. So the f of x function goes into the G x's. So remember that f of x function goes into G x's. So put the whole function into the G's x's. So y'all, that's going to give us G compose f of x will equal my G, which is 5 times x. But y'all remember, this whole x will be the complete function. 4x squared plus 5x plus 8. And then at the end, we got a minus 7. Now, if this would have said f of g, then I'd have put my g function into both of the x's for the f. All right, y'all. So the first thing we got to do, distribute the 5 through the parentheses. So 5 times 4 gives us 20x squared. 5 times 5 gives us 25x. 5 times 8 gives me 40. And then at the end is my -7. And y'all remember my last step, I got like terms at the end. So bring down your 20x squared plus your 25x. And then let's see, 40 minus 7 is what, a positive 33. So they got that on there. They also got one with a 47 in case you added that instead of subtracted it, okay? All right, 20, determine if 1-to-1 if 1-to-1, find the inverse. So they're giving me f of x equals 6x minus 3. Now let me show you what you don't want to put. Y'all see this answer A that says not 1-to-1? If you click not 1-to-1 and you put A on that, you will miss it. Every single one of us will have an inverse on this, okay? So just letting you know ahead of time on number 20, if you click not 1-to-1, you're missing it. All righty, so here's the thing. We will find an inverse for this. So you remember, to find the inverse, I replaced the f of x with a y. So I had y equals 6x minus 3. So y'all, what did I do next?
Change the x's to y's.
There you go. So this will be an x equals 6y minus 3. And y'all, at that point, solve it for that new y. So to get to 6y by itself, we're going to add 3 to both sides. So look what that gives me. X plus 3, they're not like terms. So I'm just going to keep that at x plus 3. That's going to equal my 6y. And then them 3's cancel on that side. And then our last step, divide both sides by that 6. No, we cannot do nothing to the left side, so that's going to stay at x plus 3 over 6. That's going to equal those 6's cancel, giving me a y. Now remember, officially,
F of x.
so we'd change it to the f inverse of x. So remember, it has that little -1 by it, letting us know that it's the inverse equation. And then this was my actual function equation. So what do we get? A x plus 3 over 6. Now y'all look at this. It is not x over 6 plus 3. The whole x plus 3 has to be on top, divided by that 6. So you got to go with C on that one. And then D, they got x minus 3. But remember, the inverses always got the opposite operations. So since this was being subtracted, we had to get to one being added. The 6 was being multiplied, we had to get to one being divided, okay? All right, y'all, looks like our next one is just a graph, so I'm going to leave it here. They want us to graph this function, f of x equals 4 to the x minus 3. So y'all, let me ask y'all this. We just did this test. And remember, all these basic graphs, they're going to come up, pass through one, and go up. But what I want to know is, what's that -3 doing to my graph when I'm attacking the x as an exponent?
Moving it.
So moving it, but I couldn't hear where y'all said move it to.
Right.
To the right. Yeah, so we got to move that to the right. So this one went down. This one looks like the original graph should look. Because if we move this to the right, remember, it's going to come over and then go up. So let's see, that one looks like the original. This one actually does look like it went to the right and then curves up. And then y'all D, I don't know what they did to that. They flipped it and done all kinds of wild stuff. So the only one that went right would be our C. But y'all, let's graph it on the calculator. Now look, they're using 6s on here. So I'm going to graph it on my calculator. I'm going to go to Y equals, figure that out. And I got 4. And then my exponent was, now they got parentheses, so I'll just do that. Parentheses, X minus 3, those are parentheses. Now remember, their window went from -6 to 6 on everything, so I'm going to hit window. I'm going to make that -6, arrow down, make that a +6. Then we'll arrow down and make that a -6. And then my Y max a +6. So now when I graph it, it'll look like one of the 4 pictures. And y'all, it looks like we guessed right because we picked the one that looked like it went to the right and uphill. Now, watch this. The quickest way to change that back to 10 by 10. Hit zoom, arrow down to number 6, hit enter. Now watch my window. My window is back at -10 by 10. So zoom 6 for standard will set it back to -10 by 10. And you don't actually have to come in here and physically set them all back, okay? All righty, so let me minimize this again. All righty, so we're on number 22. 22 says convert to a logarithmic equation. So this is your new stuff. So convert to a logarithmic equation, and they're giving me exponential. 3 squared equals 9. So if I'm going to convert it to logarithmic, I got to put my log down. So first question, what is the base of this logarithm?
3.
All righty. What's the result going to go right here?
9.
And then that's going to equal your exponent of
2.
2. There you go. Now, y'all, the only thing they did on the math lab on this one, they put the 2 first and then equals log 3 of 9. So let me show you. They just, they sort of flipped the sides on them, but you still want this one. 2 equals the log base 3 of 9, okay? I don't know where they got the 16 on this one at. I don't know where they got the log base 4 at on that one. And then this one has the right numbers, but they're not in the right order, okay? So on that one, we went with A. All right, y'all, guess what? 23 was another one I had y'all star. This is a log base B of a M7 T8 over N4 and a B2. So this one says express, I forgot to write what it wanted. Express in terms of sums and differences. So you got to distribute the log base B to all 4 of these. And if they're on top, remember they're positive. If they're on bottom, they were being subtracted. So doing that, we got a log base b of m7 plus a log base b of p to the 8. Now the next two factors come from the bottom, so that's going to be minus log b of n to the 4th minus a log b of b squared. So what would my next step be?
Moving your exponents.
And we're moving our exponents. Now this one, I really don't have to do that, do I? What?
No, it's just a
No,
2.
It's just a 2. Good job, because that log b of b equals 1. And when you move that 2 to the front, 2 times 1 was just 2. So y'all, good job. So just remember that right here. We know that that thing equaled 2. All right, y'all, good job. 7 log b of m plus 8 log b of p minus 4 log b of m minus R2. Now, what's nice on that one? They got multiple choice answers. Just be careful on this, because this one has a +2 instead of a -2. This one, they didn't separate it out into this a plus here, and they didn't even distribute the log to nothing. Now, this one was really close, but notice right here, they got multiplication. So they sort of threw this one a wild, whatever they're doing to that. And y'all, the only one we wanted was what? A. Exponents out front, added exponent out front, minus exponent out front, and then minus our 2. All righty. So this next one, instead of you having to use that little formula and find all those amounts for all the different times and stuff, we picked this one for the final. So it says the number of books in a small library increases according to the function B equals 6,300 times e to the 0.05 t, where t is measured in years. So then they say, how many books would a library have after 5 years? So we didn't want to have y'all have to figure everything out, like the principle and all that fun stuff. So we just found an exponential equation to put on the final. And all you got to do, they gave me 5 years here. All we got to do is plug a 5 in for that t, punch it on the calculator, and see what we get. So y'all, we would punch this on the calculator. B equals 6,300 e to the 0.05 times t they gave us, which was 5 years. Now remember, it tells me how much the books increase. If you get a number less than 6,300, you definitely did something wrong. It's got to be greater than that 6,300, okay? So y'all, let's go punch it in. So I would come in here, punch my 6,300. Now, since my E has an exponent, I would hit second LN, because you see that little blue E with the X up there? If you hit that button, it gives you the exponent. So we had a 0.05 times 5 years. Or you can use parentheses at that point. So y'all, let's hit enter. And let's see, looks like we're going to go with, we're rounding it to the nearest book, so no decimals. So that'd be what, 8,089. So let me go back to the page. So 8,089. So look, they're rounding it off to the nearest book. So there's our 8,089. There's no way it could be B because that's less books. Now C and D did increase, but it looks like C went way too much and D was a little higher than we needed. So if you push that in correctly, you will definitely get one of them 4 answers, okay? And y'all look at this. We're now down to question number 25. And 25 says solve the exponential equation. So this is some of the stuff we just had on your last test. So I got 2 and then parentheses, 10 minus 2x. All that equals a positive 4. So y'all, let me tell you on this test, the number on the right side can be rewritten using this base on the left side. So I'm going to rewrite my 4 as, well, y'all, what would I put? 2 to what exponent?
2. 2.
2, there you go. Because see, 2 squared is 4, so I can replace the 4 with that 2 squared. So I got 2 to the 10 minus 2x equals my 2 squared. So y'all, basically now, since I got both of these rewritten with the same bases, those bases match now. So if the bases match, what does that tell me?
The exponents will equal each other.
The exponents will equal each other. So 10 minus 2x will equal that exponent of a 2. And y'all guess what? At this point, we're just solving it for the x. So we'll subtract our 10 from both sides. So let's see, we
Would
get,
it not be 2 squared?
do what now?
Or just, where'd you get the, you said equals 2, so would you just do the base and not the exponent?
Well, that 2 was because I had an exponent 2 over here. So what I did, since these bases matched here, the 2's on bottom matched. Anytime those bases match, that means that this exponent 10 minus 2x has to equal this exponent of a 2.
Okay.
So now I'm going to divide both sides by -2. And actually, I get x equals a positive 4. So let me ask y'all this. Do any of y'all got the review open?
I do.
So give me another version of this question, number 25. Let's see what yours has.
Okay. I had 5 with an exponent of 12 minus 3x equals 125. And do you want me to tell you what I did, or are you just gonna solve it?
So yeah, So since I got a base 5 on this side, could you rewrite 125 using a base 5?
Yeah, I did 5 to the power 3.
5 to the power 3. So we're going to rewrite 125 as 5 to the third. Because y'all, 5 times 5 is 25. 25 times 5 is 125. So that's where we got the exponent 3. So good job. So now we bring down our 12 minus 3x for that 5. That's going to equal 5 to the third. So now at that point, what'd you do?
I did 12 minus 3x equals 3, and then
I mean,
I
perfect.
subtracted 12s.
Mhm.
Oh, sorry.
So at that point, she's perfect because since these bases matched, those exponents were equal to each other. All right, now continue on.
I subtracted the 12 from each side,
Uh-huh.
and that got me negative 3x equals negative 9.
There you go.
And then divided each side by negative 3, and that gave me an x equals positive 3.
Perfect. Perfect. So y'all, if you get a base 2, try to rewrite the number using a 2 to an exponent. If you get a base 5, try to rewrite the number using a 5 to an exponent. Okay? Good job on that. That's
I
really
have a
good.
question.
Uh-huh.
Are for 25, are the bases always gonna match?
Yes. So whatever you have on this left side as a base, that number on the right side will rewrite using that base. So you do not have to do that log stuff on this one at all. Okay. So y'all, guess what? That is y'all's final exam review. And I will say this, the final exam has the same 25 type questions. As you see, the only difference will be the numbers, like on my number 25 and her number 25 and so on.
So they're just like the regular tests and reviews that we do?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Other than we're happy this one has multiple choice, right?
Yeah, it's going to make it even easier.
There you go. People usually do the best on this test, so that way I can replace it. If you got a low test you didn't like, I can replace it with the final grade and knock it on out, okay? And y'all just remember, that number 20 that said there is no inverse or it's not one-to-one, do not mark that on that one, okay? I think that was number 20. Let me see.
It was.
It was, so.
So if we did all right on our other tests, even if we do better on our final exam, will you still do that even if we got an okay grade?
So if you made a 95 and you got 100 on my final exam, your 95 will be 100.
Okay, perfect.
Now, some of y'all, if you got a bonus and you got like 102 on one of my tests or something like that, I probably can't replace that one. But yeah, anything lower than that final exam, that one low test will be replaced.
If we get 100 on the final exam, does that also give bonus points for getting 100 or no?
No, that's the only one that I can't give y'all the bonus for.
Okay.
But I did send out an email for test 4 bonus, and you had to answer that one question on there. I think what I asked y'all, what was the log of 1? So if you email me that answer, I'll give you 5 for bonus on test 4, okay?
I already sent mine. So
Yeah. So once y'all knock out test 4, I'm going to add that 5 to it, and then y'all ready for my final. So remember, final exam has to be done by Thursday night at midnight. In fact, this course will shut down at midnight on that night. So any work that's not done by then, you're just going to get zeros for, okay? Now remember, I'm dropping 2 low homework grades and 1 of those quiz grades. And then I'll replace the 1 final low test with the final exam. So scores are going to go up after Thursday night, okay?
Do you happen to know when the July summer classes start?
They start the day after July 4th, which I think is a Wednesday. Hang on one second, I'll pull it up for sure.
Okay, I just didn't know if we got a little break before the next ones start.
Yeah, you get a 4-day weekend, I guess.
Okay.
Let me look for sure. Let me see. Yeah, July 5th, 5-week summer 2 classes begin. So
Okay.
really you get Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and then you're back at it.
Okay.
So all y'all doing summer 2 also?
I'm
Yeah.
not sure yet.
Okay.
I'm just taking speech.
I am.
This is
Uh-huh.
my last math class that I have to take. All mine are science, so.
Woo, science in the summer is probably harder than my math class.
No, all my sciences are in the fall. I am in person.
Please don't say that.
There you go. Because remember, most of them sciences got labs and stuff. So
Yeah, I have 3 labs next semester with my
yeah, so you must be doing some nursing.
dental hygienist.
Dental hygienist, there you go. So woo, yeah. So that's probably one class I wouldn't take in the summer unless I did it like the extended 10-week summer or something. But because y'all
Yeah,
didn't,
all my chemistry and that I'm taking in the fall.
there you go. There you go. All righty, y'all. So let me quit this recording.